When you're starting an adventure with your friends, there's only one way to go. Slaying dragons in dungeons and stealing some gold. Welcome to the Fellas Roll!
Dice sold separately and no real dragons were harmed in the making of this video.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Fellas B-Roll. Tonight, we are going to be talking about everything world building, from what makes our world unique to the very first town we built. Tonight, we'll be joined by the wonderfully mad genius, our current campaign catalyst, Noah McCulloch, the wonderful human being behind Corn, Abston, and of course, no talk show would be complete without the host, and tonight, I filling the role.
The very charismatic Irish swashbuckler himself, Mr. Leland Vance, the lavish legend.
And just like my character, I'm going to be talking way too much. So, let's start this off. Let's start the night off with a very simple question for the table. How did you guys create settings for your world? And please tell everybody your DM.
My DM what?
Your DM experience. So I'm going to go... Yeah, I will start. Let Noah, you are our DM. Tell us how you do this. Tell us how long you've been doing it.
But yes, of course. So I started this lovely game of Dungeons & Dragons. I would say it started in 2018. I had a wonderful friend online by the name, he went by Broom, and he got me into D&D. I'd heard about it and was just kind of like, whatever. But once I got into it, fell in love with it, and being a very much a aspiring voice actor right now, if nobody knew, I fell in love with it immediately. And immediately that same year of 2018, started crafting my own world, which is, you all know now, for the first two streams as Pleurissia. So that's my experience.
All right.
Thank you, good time.
Who's next?
You can go.
Yeah, you go.
All right. Hi. You know who I am. I'm the fucking host of this bitch. We went so cursing. And of course, I'm the one that broke it.
So long.
I have been playing D&D for 3-ish years, and I have been DMing since maybe, I want to say 2020, 2021. I think it was 2020. I just was playing in our world that our home game that our buddy who be here tonight, Tristan, ran for, and we played that. I want to do this, so I made continent, and then it just kind of built from there. I've been running games in my world, all of the interconnected things since me. And yeah, I'm not going to say my world name because cryptocurrency. I didn't know it was a cryptocurrency when I named it. I have to rename it at some point. I haven't found a name I've liked yet, but I'm getting there. So
it's okay.
Yeah.
My first name was similar to Pleurissia, but it very much sounded more like a medicine. I told it to somebody and went, I hear that as the name of a medicine in a commercial.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm taking. It's my anti-anxiety meds.
Pleurissia, yeah, exactly. Also, Connor, just a little bit, you're cutting out just a wee bit. Maybe turn up your game just a tad. Make sure.
Is this good?
Okay, all right. Well, sorry, viewers. I do not control the man on the other side of the country from me. I apologize. No.
Why would you name your name? Why would you name your world Dogecoin, Connor? Big mistake. Actually, it's Ethereum. Okay. Look. All right. Well, we're already getting into it. I promise we will be a little more streamlined. We'll get to Ricky after this. I named it Ethereum after I was playing a lot of Call of Duty Zombies at the time, and that's like one of the big things in it. And I was like, oh, that's a fucking sick ass world name. And then I saw that it was a cryptocurrency, and I was like, well, damn it. Like on principle, I felt like I have to switch it.
I got the mustache hair going. What the fuck?
All right, and last but certainly not least, we have our Ricky Sell.
Baby DM, that's me. I'm actually a brand new DM. I ran my first one shot with the fellas this weekend. I'm a horror DM. That's my thing. Horror is my niche. It always has been. A little thing that they don't know yet is the kingdom that they're playing in right now is called Dodin Incarnate, which is Latin for death incoming. So they didn't know that. So this
Death is in what?
Death is what?
No, it's actually death incarnate, not incoming. It's incarnate. Which they will learn what that means soon enough. But for me, it was just kind of I don't know. I just had the sudden motivation to do it because I've seen all of them DM, and I was like, well, what's the worst that happens? And I'd say it was pretty big success, and I can't wait to grow the actual world itself is called Dierthor, which is not Latin for anything. It's just a really cool name I thought of. But I think
I revealed on the first stream of Catalyst that I think it was the second one that Primordial is Latin in my world, so don't feel bad about it.
Nice. No, a lot of the names, I will bring this up, which I'll give a little context to it. The main character, Soka, that they've teamed with, their name backwards is doppelganger in Latin.
You bastard!
And for context, she was a doppelganger that...
She was a doppelganger.
Yeah.
Okay, and we knew it.
We knew it! We so knew it!
We knew it. Because, like, it wasn't that Ricky did a bad job of, like, leading up that thing.
You rolled way too well!
I rolled, like, a 30 on a perception check. And it was like, oh yeah, she still sneaks up on you.
Druid
and I was
moment,
like, cool.
druid moment.
A real druid hours.
Connor, I will go ahead and tell you this because I told Noah this. I had preset rolls that you had to reach, and you almost beat it by one.
Son of a bitch. Well, we are getting very off topic.
Of course we are. We're three motherfuckers with ADHD. What's going on?
Yes, yeah. All right. So, very simple. I'm just going to ask, what is the first city that you guys remember building, and how has your process changed or hasn't changed since then?
So I guess I'll start because I have such a vivid memory of building this city. It's just the absolute wonderful thing that my first campaign was set in this city. It was in the Kingdom of Nidus, which is in Plaricia, and they started in the city of Kragdar. It was a dwarven mining city, very, very small. I made it purposefully small to keep my brain load low to make it very simple for myself. So I knew where every building was, I knew who everybody was, but there were 6 houses for the residential. There was a tavern. There was the market. It was boom, 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 very simple. Yeah. But I had a big story about it. Basically, magic was very kind of hush-hush no-no, which is very interesting, of course, in a fantasy world on its own. But it was because the current mayor's son actually got killed in a mining accident that was caused by someone faultily using magic, making a mistake. It was very, very interesting. Once my players learned that, it was this, because there was a lot of conflict there, because one of our players, who is none other than the hard-boiled egg himself, Tristan, played his first D&D character on my first DM
Nice.
game. And you
Yo.
two would know as Kilgore Draxus, the Dragonborn wizard. So he
That
was a
fucking
wizard.
guy.
He was a
that
wizard.
guy.
So for a wizard to be starting in a city that had magic as a hush hush no thing was very interesting, and it made for some very
assuming-
fun stuff.
So first time DMing, they were like level 1.
Yes, level 1. I did not want to try to freak out about anything.
This leads perfectly into mine.
Please, yes.
My first city was named Sabet. Was a pirate like kind of haven. And it was, I found the dock. I found it. So it was like this very basic city where like I'm looking at the like dock right now. Like 4 of the names on this are just Critical Role PCs. Like
Love that.
like General Vex, Kern the Hammer, all this other stuff. And it's like I built this like pirate haven, and I was like, okay, well, I really like Assassin's Creed Flag, so I made Nassau, and I was like, all right, they'll get a job from the Pirate King. He's gonna tell them to go do some stuff, and then that like what was supposed to be like a 5-session long campaign ended up being a little bit longer, and then restarting, and then but for my first time DMing, I wrote, I can read you the sentence that sets this whole thing versus like a town I have now.
Please do. I'm going to pull up my old notes as well.
In this session, the party will be introduced to the world, which is a tropical island paradise. That's it.
Woo! Yeah,
That's all I
baby!
wrote for the setting.
Also, before we move on, I just want to ask the chat real quick. How's the audio? I hope it's not too loud. I did some adjustments since the last stream, and I hope it's not too loud. Hope everything sounds good. Just sound off in the chat.
It's so weird vibing with my own music instead of hearing the D&D music right now.
Yeah.
So my brain's like, because I'm like listening to very chill music, so my brain's like, yeah, this is cool.
Audio good. Wonderful.
But
Thank you, Mr.
compared to
Devin.
now, I can't say a lot. Thanks, Devin. Oh, and nice to see you, Devin. So compared to now, I have, for the campaign I'm running here at my at college with all the people that live up here with me, my party just went to the floating city of Mesmith, which has a lot of like significance and importance and all of that. My scene setting notes are 3 pages long. So I think, and this is a question I'll ask after Ricky answers the question. My level of prep that I put into a city has doubled, if not like completely changed if not changed entirely, because like I have this like Matt Mercer said something very interesting once that was he enjoys like how Exandria came to be was that he enjoys seeing why civilizations were in places. And when I started thinking about world building from that perspective, it made things a lot more interesting to me. Like, it's a floating city. In the real world, that would be awful. But when there's magic and shit, it's like, okay, well, it's this flying city, right? All right, well, how do they get food? Because motherfuckers have to eat. So it's like, okay, well, they trade a lot with sky pirates. All right, well, there are sky pirates. The sky trade, that's where they get all their stuff. All right, who would live here? Oh, it'd be wizards, right? Because if it's a highly advanced magical city, why would it be up in the sky? Well, there's an academy there, and they want to keep those wizards safe. And then, like, just once you start answering these questions about why this civilization would be there, it makes it so much easier to like set this scene where it's like, all right, well, there's a wizard college here because I think a flying wizard school would be cool. All right, well, why are they there? Oh, well, they're the best wizard school, and it's like a conservatory. All right, well, why is it like a conservatory? Because 100 years ago, there was this guy, and he was evil. And then you have Harry Potter, and then, you just write it.
Damn it!
And then you're like, fuck. And then you rewrite, and then you go, all right, fuck it, it's Harry Potter. And you get this
Just
cool
accept.
idea. You build this city you really like, and then Critical Role does a one-shot that takes place on a flying city, and then...
Skibbity bum da.
I promise I'll stop.
Your whole brain just explodes.
Yeah, but my creative process, I like Critical Role, so I take a lot of stuff from them, and, well, not take. They inspire a lot of my ideas, and I go, oh, that's interesting. What if I did it this way? So I do mention them a lot. I love people over... well, parasocial relationships are bad. Bo Burnham taught me that. I love the people over. And yeah, that's why I am going to mention them a lot, all of the time. And I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It's your turn to talk. I've done it too much.
So the thing is with me, my first city was called Wuleria, which it was I watch a lot of anime. I'm a big anime guy, and so I actually got this motivation from a city we played in Mr. Egg's campaign, the Beacons of the Rift, which you might hear about. It's a jungle city.
You have heard.
You have heard about. It's a jungle city, almost. So it's lots of the taverns are in trees. Like these are houses made in tree to tree, bridges to bridges. Like I got motivation from Star Wars as well. Like it was what is different but seems enjoyable. And for me, it was just finding inspiration from others that I've seen play or that I've seen on TV and like growing it from there. Like how can I put my own piece into it? The one shot that we're playing, I guess I should call it a two-shot now. The first thing that popped in my brain is what would drive them apeshit? So I can't tell you exactly everything about the city because they haven't finished it yet, but it started with one person, and then it grew. So at first it was like, I looked at a bunch of D&D like enemies, and I was like, what is terrifying? And then I saw one, and I was like, what is your powers? And then I built the city around the powers and moves that they have.
That actually leads really, really well to our next question. How does anything differ between you write your cities and towns to your kingdom compared to your realms, compared to your continent, and then your entire world?
For me, what was easiest for sure was building that first town into a kingdom, into a realm. And then I was like, all right, I can build a planet from here. That was the easiest for me, honestly.
Okay, interesting.
Because y'all... Oh, you go, Noah.
Yeah, no, I just have an interesting contrast that deals with specifically that, because I personally, the way I started, when I first started, I built Kragdar, right? Just a city, and I knew I had the kingdom named Nidus, right? That's about it. But nowadays, when I build something, I normally actually start with the environment, the continent that it's based on, where it's located in the world, who's there. Doesn't matter what kingdom, who's there. And then I start with the kingdom. Then I start with the cities. And then everything else spreads out from there. So that's kind of how I do things. And that's how I've changed from then to now. Because I make sure I have the environment of where I want people to be. What the story is going to be set in first. Then I have the people that are in that environment. Who would be the most interesting? Who would make the most sense in that environment? Because the minute I get a very interesting thing going on, and I'm trying to avoid spoilers for Catalysts because there's some very fun stuff coming up when it comes to specifically this that I could really, really go into. But do what?
I said Ghost Orb.
Oh, you saw some ghost orbs? Oh God. Ricky has I think we explained this before, but I'll explain it again for people who haven't heard. Ricky has a possessed room, and there's ghost orbs that fly around his room.
Yeah.
But either way, so
little as you know, there's just someone else in here with me.
little do you know that there's someone with a white laser beam that is somehow making these dots just fly. No.
Funny you should say that. Little problem though. I'm in your home.
One small issue.
I'm in your
inside
home.
your home.
All right. Oh God, we're getting off track. Point being, I've definitely changed how much I do things. And for example, there's a kingdom that I have called Worcester, that a lot of my friends online and Ricky and Tristan are both playing in a campaign that I'm running in that kingdom. That's a fun one. One day you'll join. One day, my guy.
I'll be there.
And that kingdom specifically, before it fell to the ruin that is the current campaign that I'm running, was kind of a coastal city. It was flanked by 2 massive ocean sides, and so they had a bunch of trade, and they basically focused on economic growth and market shares and all those kinds of things. So I very much base what I like. I love basing what the kingdom is going to do, not only based off of their environment, but also based off of what they're going to use magic for, because that's a big part of my world, is using magic for things other than fireball. So
It's wizard time!
wizard time, motherfucker! Fireball! That might just be clipped. Okay. But yeah, that's about all I got. So that's my kind of contrast on things.
That's really interesting, seeing like the 2 ways, like Ricky being like inspired by things, and then you go, okay, I'm gonna go with environment. I am weird. I go off of vibe. I think that like kind of helps me, and like it helps me describe like some of the parts of my world for players. So like my world have like about 4 continents, and like how I've described them is like, all right, we got the main continent that they are on, or they were on, Spire, and Spire is traditional high fantasy. It is more Hobbit. It is like, oh yeah, everybody's having fun, everybody's chill with everybody. Like, it is basic fantasy stuff. You go over to the other continent across the way, like the more Europe kind of the American Empire, and that continent is Game of Thrones. It is the political discourse. It's all those funky politics that like can be interesting for the type of game you're running. But if it's like, oh yeah, I wanna play The Hobbit, like nobody ever saw Frodo Baggins like debate the ethics of like murder, because that's not fun. And then I have
cool.
It's not very sweet and awesome and silly and sexy.
I have the animalistic continent, which like I need to still like figure out some of that vibe, but it's like that is the mysterious. Ooh, nobody knows a lot about these people. They're kind of like to themselves for the most part, and like anytime anyone started a war with them, they lose quickly. And stuff like that. And then I have the like cold wintry section that's like, just this is where Goliaths come from. It's Mad Max Thunderdome out there. It is.
That's dope. I've got a Mad Max Thunderdome place as well,
where it's like, oh yeah, people go here, and if they come back out alive, they're gone. Like up here, gone. This is where hope goes to die. Is how people describe that, because it's like, it's so cold that like no one can really hang out there. All the other continents have developed like kind of the same amount of stuff. Like the one, the animalistic kingdom like kind of keeps to themselves. Nobody hears anything from this continent. Like people send explorers and they are gone.
Wow.
So like
It's
about
the
after
Bermuda
like
Triangle.
yeah, it's like
Yeah.
300 years into that, they're like, all right, fuck it, nope, no more, and they just. That's where it's straight up like, oh yeah, certain continents will just like dump shit they don't want anymore there.
Wow. That's cool.
So it's interesting to think about, all right, who would live there? What makes this place so scary? And I think it's interesting like to think about that because it's like, all right, well, if this is your Bermuda Triangle, like you said, if an airship crashes, surely not everybody's going to die. All right.
No, they are.
No, they do. Oh, well,
Dude.
hold on. Let me roll.
Oh my God! We're so
Oh yeah, they all fucking dead. They're all dead.
Can I roll initiative, please? Can I roll initiative?
Look, I know that. Did they die, Noah?
The fellas were up!
But like, that's the fun stuff to think about. Like, world building to me is like all right, this place is spooky and scary. Why?
Right.
Because I think of stuff like Nope, without giving that movie away. When you think it's one thing and it's actually another, and then you're like, oh wow, those two things are very similar.
There we go.
Yeah.
No, you're good. You're good. You can keep talking. I was just fixing my camera because it went out of focus.
But it's like
Apple.
stock market the campaign. No, I don't have anywhere that's like New York Wall Street. Connor, my distaste for capitalism carries over into my game.
And
Where it's
my
like, oh, yeah.
love for theoretical capitalism carries over into my games.
See-
like I was talking about Worcester, them motherfuckers, them the green gots right there, them the bankers, they are capitalistic son of guns.
With my world that I noticed, like after hearing you guys talk about it, is mine was, who would you see live there, and how would you make it feel off?
Right, and that's a very interesting thing for a horror campaign,
Yeah.
and I'd love to hear more about how you go about creating that tension in a typically like Dungeons and Dragons was made because Gary Gygax wanted to play The Hobbit, right?
Yeah.
So it'd be very interesting to see like what you do in your world to inspire fear.
It's, for me, it was just kind of going through and like in tabletop, as we've all seen, if you've seen an episode of The Fellas Roll, I made this town and I started imagining it in my brain, describing it more to myself, and then I burnt it down. In a way
Yes.
of, this is a nice, energetic town. It's somewhere everyone would want to go. But what if it had underlining tones that you cannot ignore? So, like, you hear this bustling town, people are running back and forth, you see the drunks, you see kids running around, but they're all smiling, as in ear to ear, and some of them talk normally, but other ones, if you ask them a question, it's, welcome to our city, are you having fun?
Right.
Welcome to
Yeah.
our city, are you having fun?
This
And
motherfucker
then-
literally threw us into We Happy Few D&D.
And we found
Yeah.
out that like they share thoughts, right? Like they all have the same thing running through their head. And that's super interesting. We didn't dive deeper into that, but it's still like that's a very interesting concept of like,
They'll see why
Alright.
soon.
yeah. Where I did something very similar when I ran a cult in my game, where it was like, it was that fervor and that eagerness to please, where it's like, oh yeah, we'll do anything. Like the party confronted this cult leader place. The gunslinger was like, I'm gonna find someone to get into a fight with, and he got into a fight. He got his ass kicked because I rolled very well. because sometimes we do that as DMs. It's like, oh, this is a balanced combat encounter. Oh, that's 3 natural 20s in a row. Okay.
Yep.
Fuck.
Mine was kind of if you were a creature that people disgusted, but you had the chance to survive, what would you do with that opportunity?
Right. But sorry, it's gonna sound rude when I say it, but not like coming back to what I was saying. Like when the party got into this fight, and then like they were like, "Oh yeah, that guy's a betrayer of the cult. He's a false watcher," and all of the cultists were like,
Oh.
and they just went into go mode, and it was like the fervorous, like just.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Then when they beat the main cult guy, whatever thing he had, because I forgot the conclusion, they never really found out what it was. But when his like kind of the mental thing wore off, all of them just kind of like broke down, because at the time I was getting into the Last of Us game, and I read how like I got into the science of it, and how the cordyceps mushroom, it doesn't take over the brain, it takes over the like spinal column, so it's just controlling your body and you're still there.
Mm-hmm.
So that was what was scary
I love
to
the
me.
thought of that with zombies, because that's terrifying.
Yeah.
That you know what's happening, you cannot control it.
I think
And
that's
I
what
wanted to-
early The Walking Dead focused on. Was that very much like the person behind the zombie is still there, but just barely.
And I
it's
wanted
almost
something.
echoes of memories.
I wanted something like that because it feels like a lot of times, especially in like popular media and stuff like that, cult leaders are idolized for being super charismatic and pretty, and like they're shitty people, and we should acknowledge them as shitty people. So I like the idea of like, in this world with magic, what would a cult look like when you don't need to be charismatic or really attractive or anything along those lines, where you can just go, okay, you're mine now.
That's terrifying.
That's
And I-
really good.
And I really liked that idea of like, right, they are this place. And then I got to build the city around it. And
Say it one more
Bleakburn.
Bleakburn?
Bleakburn.
Okay.
Yeah. And Bleakburn, unintentionally, based on this like player's backstory, like when he made his character, he was like, "Oh, I want to play Nightwing," and then changed it a little bit. So I built like a Gotham City-esque kind of village where it's like, oh yeah, it always has like a weird knack for finding itself in dark scenarios,
That's dope.
and like some of the like original world and lore around it was like, oh yeah, for a while this city was cursed by a witch to always be raining.
That's cool.
So it's like that's where like that started, and then over history they learned how to dispel it, and it was like, all right, well, what kind of infrastructure would they have if it is always raining? Because then the city's gonna flood easily.
You gotta have the
So
drain ducts. They gotta have everything.
So they
yeah.
would develop indoor plumbing. They would develop a sewer system. All right, so now when there's bad guys, they'd be hanging out in the sewer system that hasn't been used because it's been raining, so it's abandoned, and there are only fewer sewer ducts. And then you just start, it's like what I was talking about earlier, how it just kind of like that domino effect of like, oh, I want this city to always be raining. All right, how do they deal with always be raining? And you gotta like layer it on top of layers to where it's like, all right, this dude's fifth cousin runs the general store because his other cousin was like, hey, you gotta do this. And he was like, well, actually, I want to be a bard. And he said, well, you're never going to amount to anything. He went out to bard college, failed miserably. And then he's like, he comes back and he's real defeated, but he rekindles the romance with his high school sweetheart. His dad fixes his relationship with him, and, you know, all this other stuff. And he's selling loots for 5 gold now. So he still gets to do the thing he loves, and it's that shit.
Right. Yeah, no, that kind of, those like kind of inner story stuffs. In chat, we see you, but we're just, you know, gotta stay focused somewhere, because otherwise if I start talking to you guys, I'm not gonna start talking to Connor, and then it's gonna be crazy. But either way, yeah, those kind of like inner, like environment-based storytelling like I've said before, like you kind of do the same thing or similar thing anyway with environments, in terms of like the kingdom is built around the environment kind of thing. But it's like, okay, so I go from, okay, I want to build a world environment, right? I go straight line, straight to environment, get that out, and then everything branches like a tree out from there. You, however, start here and go vibe. I'm going to go on a side quest around here. Now I'm back to environment, but I've got a different answer because I went a different route. Right, and that's what the beautiful thing is about world building, is that like you can get very similar or very samey kind of answers, but also very, very different through almost very, very similar results.
Well, it's the process.
Or very similar process. Yes. Right.
Where it's like, yeah, I like that, because like I haven't talked about the like Game of Thronesy continent because my players haven't been there. I have it built out, but it's like it is a completely different vibe. And I think that at the end of the day, that's why like I enjoy movies and stuff like that, where it's like, oh yeah, I really like the vibe.
Yeah, there's plenty of kingdoms.
For me, it's the descriptors.
It's the descriptors?
So if like when I'm playing D&D, if I can't imagine the world in my head and flash to it real quick in a way of like, oh, you're in this city and there's a bunch of people and it's mostly like a very upbeat, very lightful city. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I know where I am. But if you tell me, yeah, it's a city. Okay, what's the city look like?
If you remember the initial conversations about who should DM, the reason we picked Noah for the first campaign was that, Noah, you said it wonderfully, was that you are seeing a movie in your head and that you describe it in a way where you want all of us to see that. And I think that's why.
Precisely why I spend so much time and actually run out of breath sometimes when I'm describing things. A, because I'm fat, but B, because I'm thinking so much, because I want y'all to see what I see in my head. I want to be able to bring that to y'all without having to animate something, without having to make a fucking movie, right? Like
Critical Role,
that whole thing, like, you know.
Right.
I mean, I'd love to. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to make a movie.
Look. Hey, Peacock. I know you guys aren't.
Listen.
Hey, Tubi, your ad was great. Please let us make a show.
Tubi, we love you. Tubi, we love you,
Tubi. And hey, is Quippy still a thing?
Quippy? You out there?
You know, they did like hey streamers. Please. Hey, look, I'm a screenwriting major. I can whip up a script. I can whip up.
I'm a director.
I can whip up a script like I'm
boom right here. I mean, you have to. We got it. No, all right, we're shilling ourselves.
We have been talking about it already, so I think we can actually move to our next segment, which is actually led by you, Noah.
Wonderful. Which does perfectly lead into things. So this is a beautiful question that I really, really, really love. Is kind of what I've loved to call story building. It's essentially the question of how does a setting influence the stories that are told in it, right? So we've kind of already, like you said, we've kind of already been talking about this, but it is the idea that why is this story being told in this environment, in this setting? Why would it differ? How would it differ if it was told in another setting, right? And so kind of talk about that, like how, not only how you crafted the story to fit the setting, or how you craft the setting to fit the story, whichever way you did it. Talk about how you kind of did that and how you went along that. And let's start with Ricky. I want to hear about his because he recently did it the most.
Yes, Ricky, I want to hear from you first.
The final encounter. I started with the final encounter to make my setting.
That's beautiful.
Right.
So I was like, we were talking about like what kind of campaign we wanted on, and I was like, horror is my thing. So I'm going to try to make a horror one because Noah ran one of my favorite characters I've ever played in my life is Lucia Myers. And Noah did a like kind of horror-esque campaign. Well, one shot. But
the
I was
7-hour one shot.
How can I make
a
world that is?
It was 8 hours.
That's true. How can I make a world that is terrifying without using the Underdark? So I was like, what if these creatures, these things started coming out of the Underdark and they started running the world itself? So now there's this giant war going on that it's these creatures against people. Who will populate the new world? That was my thing. It was, okay, why are they here? Like, why do they want to be in the world? It's because they've been suppressed for so long that they're like, okay, we have the power to fight back. Let's fight back.
It's kind of a reverse Undertale in a way, then.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting. And,
Yeah.
and that's a very interesting way to like kind of switch the classic trope of like, oh, there are monsters in the world and they're whatever. It's like, all right, they're coming out of their home.
That was my, like, the whole plan with this is I want to make a series of one-shots of like the tales of these monsters controlling or trying to take control of the cities. And I want to do, like, at the end, I want to do this final one-shot comparing to how all of them took place, how all of them happened. Like, this is the final one-shot to decide who wins the war. Who won the war?
Right.
That's been, like, kind of my setting for it all.
And that's really interesting because like it drives some questions for me as a player in this, where it's like, all right, if you're describing it as a war, who are the generals? Who are the people that are? Who are the things that are leading this? 'Cause that's interesting. Like, because like, oh yeah, if what we're fighting right now is foot troopers and they're giving us problems, God, we're fucked. And I know
it's with me. I kind of wanted to make it's my DMing is roleplay heavy. I'm very roleplay heavy because I feel once you get into that role playing is when the setting starts to take over. And while yes, you want to have a big fight here and there, the thing is, what I've learned from writing horror recently is if you build that setting and you get them into it, you can sneak up on them.
And he did.
Right.
He fucking did.
he did.
He really
absolutely
did.
did.
It was terrifying, actually, because within the first 15 minutes of the session, this man sent me a DM and said, "Roll a wisdom saving throw." 15 minutes into the session. We were just standing in town. We hadn't even met with our quest giver. We hadn't met with anyone except a few of kind of weird people here and there being a little too overly cheery.
Right.
And that's it. 15 minutes.
At that point, it was all.
Funny enough, I'm so glad you brought that up, Noah. The way I used the wisdom saving throws is it was kind of the bringing you back into it.
Right.
And it wasn't like a thing as, oh, my players aren't paying attention, all of you die. It
Motherfucker said roll an immersion check.
Yeah. Yeah. It's more of like this world, while you're also goofing around, you're having fun, which is fine. This world is still coming at you. This world is still fighting. Like this war that's happening that you don't even know about yet. It's coming.
Well, that's a very interesting way for like, oh yeah, how that background noise kind of drains us in real life. Like how you get on Twitter and you see like, oh yeah, Joe Biden said this, these people are fighting, these countries are at war. And it's like, I'm not involved in that in any way. And that's still taxing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very interesting like mechanic, I think, to be like, oh yeah, you just get general bad vibes from the world.
Yeah.
And that's
because it's like you said, exactly like you said, Connor. It's like, what if you were not a political person, but all of a sudden you were pushed into politics?
Yeah, well, I forget what it was. But it's like, imagine if one day you just woke up and they were like, all right, Senator, what's on the docket for today? And it's like,
yeah, it's
huh?
That's exactly like the way I wanted to do, because I was thinking like if I push this on someone, they will feel forced to. It's easy. I'm trying to activate that fight or flight. That was my goal in the beginning. was
That's really interesting.
I'm either going to activate your fight or flight, or you're going to have to continue to roll with it. And when I saw like lots of you, like the whole time y'all rolled with it, it was like, okay, they see this. Now I've already made what their character type is, so let's test them some more.
Yeah, you were testing our metal, right?
Yeah.
Like what? Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, that's really
Uh,
cool. I love that.
So, look, my house story. God, that's just really good.
That is so good, Ricky. Oh my god. Guys, okay. Reminder, guys. This man DM'd his first campaign this weekend.
Yeah.
This weekend. This past Saturday. Like,
And this was a world that I built in about 2 hours. Like, it was nothing crazy. Like, these two make these amazing, like, crazy worlds. And I was like, how can I fuck with them?
Yeah. Well,
we focused more on the story, and it was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, because I feel like a problem that me and Noah maybe I don't want to speak for you when I say this, that a problem we do sometimes is we've spent so much time world building. Sometimes it's like, all right, look, this setting is cool, but I want you to go to this next one.
See, I took your advice. Because I remember whenever you talk about D&D, you're always like, you have the hardest time world building. So I was like, what if I world build last?
That is... Oh, wow.
Stump the man. Got him
Where you
thinking.
put the story and then go, okay, when would this be interesting?
Yes.
Where were this?
So I
That
built
that
the
is
world
that
itself,
is
I built last.
well, that's
Beautiful.
that is a phenomenal. And I'm sorry, stream. I'm a film guy, so that is a
We're both film
phenomenal.
guys, so we're like going off of each other.
This is a phenomenal way to like write a script where it's like, all right, well, one of the pitches I heard in a class that I found immediately interesting was my friend once said, there's a movie example, Pride and Prejudice and zombies. What if Pride and Prejudice was in a zombie apocalypse? That movie was fantastic.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, what if we take this thing that you know and we flip it?
Right.
Where it's like, all right, cool, I'll do this murder mystery story, but we're in space.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, then you have Among Us.
Exactly. And I will say, I will go ahead and...
That was on stream!
My notes for the campaign itself,
Oh my
y'all
ears.
have gotten through...
I'm sorry.
You laughed so.
I'm sorry. It was funny.
My notes for the campaign itself, like the one shot, it's only a page long.
Right.
Like, my brain was like, because I overcomplicate things a lot. So I was like, how can I make this world as simple as possible, but also terrifying? So that's really the only reason why I world build last, was because I want to make it simple. Then I can grow it after I have everything else but the world itself.
Yeah, that is absolutely beautiful. Because like, I personally did start with environment first for me still. When I started Catalysts, I thought, okay, where do I want to be? Like, what world? Like, what environment do I want to be in? Is the minute I started thinking of things, right? And the story that we're telling, and obviously y'all are crafting this story as we go. But what I have set out is one that is, we were talking about this before, but it is uniquely placed in the circumstances I have thus laid out within this continent of Arcania. And for those who haven't watched me in the stream or just forget, because I know I forget, Arcania is the continent that they are currently in the Kingdom of Optimalus in the city of Daji. And so this city is...
I still don't remember those names.
Oh, I know you don't, and that's okay. Because I do, and that's all that matters.
True.
And so this story that I'm currently kind of brick building out for you guys is going to be one that is, obviously I kind of build it out to where y'all have a lot of agency in it, because I want your choices to greatly affect the story and affect the environment of which you go out and change. Whether that means like literally the environment, like the trees, the hills, the mountains, or the environment of the social climate, the political climate. Whatever you do changes or reinforces something, right? I want your choices to have an impact, essentially. Which all good DMs should strive for that, in my opinion. Is that choices have an impact no matter what.
Well, that's why I did a lot of world building, and that's why I build off of vibes. I like, because my players, I have a wonderful group of players here in Chicago. They wrote very good backstories that, like, all right, here's the name of the place I grew up. Here are the people that were important to me and all this other stuff. And it is always, any future DMs or anyone that want to DM, take note of this. It is always so much fun when you say the name of a place and you get to watch. Because I think it is important to world. And I think you should get as much information as you can before you start your campaign. But allow things to change. I think that the stories I tell in my world changed heavily based on, like, my players and, like, some of the stuff I wanted to happen in this story that I wanted to tell. I had to kind of take a second and sit back, listen to what the story my players wanted to tell. And then how I could find a healthy compromise between those two. And that how I could do that, one way to do that was through the world building. Mm-hmm. Where it's like, oh yeah, this place is named Chronovale. Well, in this story, my player has a technologically advanced civilization, and they named it Detroit. So now it's Detroit. So it's just, like, very important for me as a DM to, like, the most important thing is to listen to your players. And I think, like, with world building and storytelling and all, you can kind of tell, like, what your players want to do based on the settings they want to go to.
Yeah.
And, like, I know when we did the pirate campaign, it's because y'all wanted to be pirate.
True.
So
it's true.
So you were like, oh yeah, I want to be a pirate. So I was like, oh, all right. So I know the setting you want.
Yep,
and then y'all went and played in it, and y'all enjoyed it heavily.
Yeah.
For the little bit we got to play, where it was like, oh yeah, we're gonna do boat combat, and then we're gonna fight krakens and do all this scary shit.
I don't know about you, but I was playing a ranger rogue lizard folk that had a 600-foot longbow shot like 3 times, and he had that one thing that made it to where you don't have disadvantage on the long range.
You had sharpshooter.
It wasn't sharpshooter though, because sharpshooter is the one that's like -5.
No,
it also gives you.
Does it also give you
accuracy as well? Elven accuracy.
I had something like that. I didn't have it on Elven accuracy, but I had something.
Yeah.
Either way, I was shooting motherfuckers 600 feet out in the crow's nest as a black scaled lizard folk. It was dope.
That was a distinct moment I remember of, like, everybody else was like, all right, we gotta board the ship or whatever, and you were just sitting there like, I'm gonna shoot the captain again.
And I was a rogue, hidden the entire time because they couldn't see me from that distance.
Yeah.
So I was literally just getting sneak attack every time from like 4 different attacks.
It was at night, so they had disadvantage on perception checks. So it was like, you're super far away, and you're just, all they're hearing is...
Yeah, it was beautiful. I don't think I missed a shot.
Yeah.
I don't think Greglar missed a shot. His name was Greglar.
You were extremely, all of you got extremely lucky. It was my first game. I let them be level 10. I didn't understand how multi-classing works, so I just let them have, well, however many cleric spell slots you had, you would also add your sorcerer spell slots to that, because that's how that works. And it was like, oh yeah, my friend multi-classed into like, I think it was fighter and also paladin, and they did 5 in each, so I thought they got 4 attacks. And it was like, it was rough. I cannot stress to you enough how like, oh yeah, but it was fun.
It was fun. We were all having fun. Nobody was not having fun. Let me tell you that.
Our campaign is anti-pirate. Okay, so now I get to tell this story. Right. So my players, I love them to death. They were presented with like 2 options, and it was like, oh yeah, this person came in and 2 player members died. It was one of the roughest sessions I have ever run, where they had just had a really hard combat, and then this person joined and was like, this person, they went into some stuff we will get into whenever we run a campaign in my world. But plain and simple, they just had like a really hard fight, and then they came out, and there was this woman who was threatening one of the party members and was like, hey, you know the guy you want to go get revenge on? I want to get revenge on him too. But she was kind of an asshole about it. And by kind of an asshole, I mean she like insulted all the party members directly, to the point I wrote personalized insults for each of them.
That's awesome.
Just in case like it happened. And that's a level of prep you don't need to do as a DM, but it's always fun when it's like, oh yeah, hey, remember that one time you countered spelled this spell I like? I'm gonna project
the fucking the Jim Carrey meme. I'm gonna get you.
So I was like, all right, we're gonna do a pirate arc because that's like they just got a ship, they're gonna want to use it, and so we'll do that. 2 party members died, and then because they like got into a fight with the lady, and she was high level. And she had a magic item that allows her to cast 2 concentration spells.
Yeah.
So it was like haste, and then I forget what else. It was haste and slow. So it was, I went hard. And she and they know this. She was a blade singing wizard. So she had like a 23 armor class just running at them with this rapier.
Oh wait, no, it was disgusting.
It was firewall. So she split the party in half.
Oh,
was just running around, smacking the shit out of people, hitting them while they were down. And it was intense.
Campaign 2.
Reverse campaign 2. Yeah. And
the fun on the boat. If anybody out there loves campaign 2 of Critical Role.
And they just like after that fight, the 2 party members died. They like ran away to a bar after like she teleported out, and that they were just like, if we go to the Pirate Kingdom, we will die. So they were like, what if we went more inland? What if we went to the mountain?
What if we went directly opposite of what I'm?
And it was so funny because they had just came back from so they essentially just went, fuck this.
Let's go back.
And it was just really funny. And it was like a moment as a DM where I went, okay, you know what? I think I went a little too hard.
Yeah.
But hey, you know, sometimes you need those moments as a DM. And I think, I don't mean to take your job, but I do think at this point is the perfect time to transition into our final topic.
Oh yeah, the character.
Because at this point we've already been talking about it.
It's what we've talked about the most.
Yeah. Oh,
it's true.
Well, I mean, while Ricky, you're looking at things, I'm going to say one thing. You know, characters are the most important part of the world. Like,
yes.
No matter what, characters, the people in them, are the most important part of world building to me.
Chat, if you want to, I'll take this time. Any questions you have, please put them in the chat, or go over on our Instagram at the Fellas Roll over there, and go on our story and fill out the question box. We are running pretty ahead of schedule, so if we finish up this character conversations and you guys have questions for us, please let us know. It's a live stream. It's interactive. I'm fucking reading chat right now.
Yeah, and I have a question here. Where's Tristan today? Our glorious egg is unfortunately indisposed because of a little bit of a scheduling issue that he had to take care of another prior engagement that was slightly
but he
more
should be
important
back
than
soon. He should be back
stream.
soon.
He will be back
He'll be back for our next stream.
He'll be back for our next stream. I almost said spoilers.
Yeah,
You have to wait. But yes, any questions you guys have,
Sure,
please.
it's me.
For real.
I'm the worst.
for real.
Shut up. Fuck off, Justin. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. ADHD. It's bad. I take meds. Discuss here in the YouTube chat, or you can go over to our Instagram at the Fellas Roll, and you can peer through those in the last like 30 minutes of the stream. We're not gonna go like we normally go.
We're not gonna go till like 10 or so. We're probably gonna be here for another hour.
Hour and a half.
At the most.
Yeah, sadly, it is a brain. I also had an ADHD moment. It is a
Your train
very
left the
short
station
stream.
and went to mine.
Yeah, it did. Very short stream. But you know what, Connor? I'm going to take over from you, and I'm going to go into this topic: making the people of your world, the enemies, the good guys, and how it kind of impacts your environment altogether. So first, I kind of want you guys to tell me about the bad guys of the world. Like, why did you create them, and what is the reason? And Connor, you called dibs. What is the reason that you made these characters? Like, why are they there?
Okay, so this is I think it's one y'all have dealt with. Maybe potentially. I have this character in my world. His name is Floyd Mulligan. And he started as he was a PC that I played. He was a cowboy gunslinger, and then eventually became more than that. So in my world, in the original concept was like, if any of you have seen Preacher, he was the Saint of Killers. He was a warlock gunslinger who was death. He was death. He was a reaper. He would go around and he was a bounty hunter. It was awesome. I love him to death. So then in my world, I ran a mini campaign for these characters over the summer. And it had started because the gunslinger in my campaign up here in Chicago wanted to multi-class into gunslinger. And I was like, oh, well, I can use my old PC because that'll be cool for me. And then without really thinking about how it fit in the world. And then I ran a mini campaign for these two over the summer called The Age of Dragons, which is just an arc where the dragons of my world decided that they wanted to read. And so my world had this city, like these ancient cities that were very technologically advanced, but ultimately just ended in destruction. And they were looking for what were essentially Titanfall mechs using a system that Noah developed and adapted.
It's so cool.
It's really cool, and I really, if we get to see it in the campaign, I'm not going to say much about it because we might see it in the campaign. I don't want to say anything because I don't know anything.
He nodded his head! He nodded his head!
He nodded his head. Y'all are going to see Leland in a Titanfall mech. I've spoken it into existence.
I just said, I didn't even say anything. I just nodded my head as in, yes, please do not spoil.
Yeah, because, you know, we have the script ahead of time.
Yep.
Yeah. I actually just finished the one. So the reason why I actually kicked Tristan out so we could finish the script, he's locked in my closet right now working on the script.
Yeah, he's writing. That's why he's not here. But while I was writing this campaign, I was like, okay, well, there are these two architects that are going to make the city of Mesmith fly. And it would be really interesting if that character, if this patron guy was from that. So I was like, okay, I already have this character. What if I just put him here? So then it became less about like, all right, well, he's a bad guy because he likes doing evil. He's a bad guy because he got betrayed.
Because it was this some shuffling and ruffling I'm hearing from you. I think.
I was definitely shuffling and ruffling.
So it's still, I can still hear it. There we go.
So it was like there was this arcane engine that was making the city fly, and then the other creator. I don't know what's happening.
What are you doing? Anyway, please continue, Connor.
So it became about like vengeance to this guy, right? Because he died and he was so angry that his soul stood out to the god of death and was essentially like, all right, fuck it. What if I made you a reaper? I'll give you some minor powers and you'll just do some bidding for me. And he was like, yeah, whatever I can do to stay alive and get revenge. And then that turned into like, all right, he became a warlock patron for like, he realized I can give these powers too. And then it became like this is my shot at getting back the person that killed me. Because while he was a human, the person that killed him was an elf. So that person is still alive and roaming around. So he's like, all right, well, I'm going to get this motherfucker even from beyond the grave. And then it turned into other things that I can't talk about because we're on stream and my players watch this. But it was like a really interesting thing to see like one of my players had a very controlling character in their backstory that like tortured and broke them, and it was about control. And then he got to this patron that eventually set...
Get back in your closet and go right! Get back in the closet!
Get back in the closet! Go write the script, Tristan!
Tristan! Which, by the way, go watch Cracking Heads.
Yeah, go watch Cracking Heads. Don't reference Harry Potter again. I swear to God, I'll go off. This will be a very different fucking...
That's the second time!
You get one more. You get one more.
There are 3 strikes and I'm out. Okay, I understood.
By the third strike, it's like...
Look, it's
like
not because I love Harry Potter. It's because I love screaming.
All right, you got real lucky that you cut it off with your laugh, motherfucker.
It sounds funny! Come on!
Yeah. You know what's not funny?
Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Please don't do it.
Don't do it.
Anti-Semitism.
No, we can't! No!
All right, back to D&D. Yeah. Hey, you know what a fun part about, you know what? Actually, this ties into characters in your fantasy world. Hey, in a world where people can cast magic, why would anyone be racist, sexist, or homophobic, or any of those things?
Mine's not. So yeah, no, my world,
That's, the characters in my world are super progressive, because when you got spells that can do fucking anything, you wouldn't be like, oh yeah, you're a goblin, teehee.
And in other news, I love my character that I played in Connor's campaign, The Age of Dragons. His name was Icon Boshiro. He was a monk cleric, Jim Dragonborn, and he had fucking astral arms that came out and fucking pummeled people.
Astral monk. I like character. And I think that's interesting because that actually gets into like the characters in the world. No, I told Noah what the campaign was, and he like what the basic premise was, and he was like, "Cool, I'm in. This is what I want to play." And he made a character that fit so extremely well because
I played a moonshiner.
Yeah, he did play a moonshiner. So what Noah kind of made, if you don't mind me talking about,
please do. Yeah, I mean, don't divulge the whole thing because I still want stuff when we do go back to that campaign.
We still have some
but like with his
evil men.
Yeah, with some of his motivations, it was like he didn't really have any. He was kind of, I don't want to say a lazy person, but it was like he always kind of wanted more.
He was listless. Yeah.
He was listless. And then this character fits so well because it's no longer a hero. As soon as shit went down, Icon was like, oh, fuck yeah.
Finally, a purpose. And he just went in.
And he went in. And that's a very interesting character where there in this Age of Dragons, when it kicked off was this session I titled The Siege of Silvercrest, where the entire session was them escaping a city as hordes of dragons descended upon. And the very interesting thing that happened when they escaped on this skyship was that, you had this moment as a dragonborn where you were like, I look at all of these people that are terrified, and I can't help but feel a little guilty.
It's of my own kind. It's of my own people.
Yeah.
And
That
that
I've
was
descended
like
from.
that's a really interesting character moment where I as a DM cannot plan for that.
Right.
So when you build this world, it like kind of helps me, the DM, validate some of my world building, because that wasn't inappropriate. You didn't like, it didn't be like, oh yeah, and we're playing a drinking game. All right, what are you doing? So I'm reflecting on my past actions and all of the regret I feel in my heart. It was like everybody, you encapsulated what everyone felt
Right.
in those very simple words. And I think as a DM, the more like world building and thought you put into these sessions, the players will reflect. Because you sent me, I think it was 3 pages of backstory for Icon.
Something like that. Probably 2.5.
And
more
we
accurately.
talked, probably 2.5.
Yeah.
We talked for a while, and like, it was really good. And you were like, all right, where would like my monastery be? Where would all this stuff be? Where would I be? That like, and then we did something very similar with Catalyst, where with Leland, I sent you my monster of a backstory, and you were like,
all
right,
these motherfuckers have spent so much time on their backstories, by the way. I cannot wait for you guys to see what these characters are, who they are. It's only been 2 sessions. It's already been, I hope it's been amazing for those that have watched any amount of Catalysts, our first campaign that we are streaming here on Fellas Roll. They've already made absolutely wonderful characters. So yeah, when you send me your monster backstory.
Well, you did a very similar thing when it was like, okay, we're doing a stream, we're doing it in my world. And we had talked for a while about how I wanted, all of us specifically, all of us wanted to play a campaign DM'd by you, except for Tristan, because he's played in your campaign, so he knew what to like expect. But me and Ricky have only ever played alongside you and done one shot.
Yeah.
So I was like, if I do a campaign, or mini campaigns, where it was like, oh yeah, my character's a barbarian. But it's interesting to me that like I knew you put a lot of work into your world, and like you talked about writing a book and doing all this other stuff with your world, and I was like, okay, I want to make a character that fit. So I write my character backstory, send it to you, we talk, all that other stuff, and I think like as a player on your side, it is like, I think just you put so much work in, it made me want to match that effort. Because I really care. Because I've been in campaigns where it's like, oh yeah, you start in a town and the town's name is Oakenshield.
Let me look and see here.
And it's like, well, all right, well, my character's name is Connor, and he's a human fighter. And he's got a high charisma, maybe. And just like, I want to put more effort in the more effort I see in the world. And like, I think that's very prevalent with your campaign, where it's like you would put a lot of work in it, and all of our characters feel very full.
Yeah, for reference, I'm going to say this not only as a teaser for what's to come, but also as like kind of a more of a world building thing. When it comes to characters, right? I think about character motivations, what their actions are going to be, and then how those actions are going to expound onto the bigger world, right? So what that means for me, essentially, is with every kingdom that I have, and with each movement of the timeline, with each session that goes by, with each day, each long rest you take, I'm playing a chess game in the background. I'm moving my pieces each time to see what happens, to decide what's going on, where these next movements, what these next actions, what the next events are going to be before they finally culminate into something, and we have the story, right? So, with that movement and with that idea, characters inform every single one of those decisions for me, right? The decisions are informed by the environment, right? But then those decisions inform the events, and the events are the story
informed the
themselves.
decision, and then the story
And
informed.
it all, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful.
And-
It's beautiful. That's why I love gaming as a storytelling device, whether it be video games, whether it be even an interactive novel, like a graphic novel or a what do you call it?
Doki Literature
Doki
Club.
Literature Club. I mean, hello. Look. I know it's a funny, haha name, right? But for anybody who knows about Doki Literature Club, DDLC is one of the most beautifully crafted stories ever. Like the medium completely is defied by what it tells, what it is, and that's what I love about everything about gaming.
I remember beating that game for the first time. I was sitting in my room like,
Yeah, no, I rethought live after I beat that game.
Yeah,
the thing so
I streamed it over my channel. Like I streamed it on Triptolite. Like there's like 6 episodes of like 4-hour streams of me just being like.
What I find funny about Corin, I talked to Noah and I was like, in my brain, I went, what is the most weirdest character I can make that doesn't fit in Noah's worlds? I went the exact opposite of Connor. And then I talked to Noah, and somehow, while me and Noah were brainstorming, and you can kind of tell this from the first episode of the campaign, I somehow connected my backstory to Leland. In some way, somehow, I'm not going to tell you how, in what way, because you'll learn this later on. But obviously, I've said this multiple times, and you can pick up on it. Corin is not of this world. And
he's from Ohio.
Down like Ohio.
Swag like
Ohio. And my I just kind of wanted
packet. I don't know why I have it in my hand.
I just kind of wanted to play someone that was learning about the world itself, because I thought that would be really fun.
Yeah, and I as a DM, having the opportunity to have a character that's doing that is beautiful. Having someone who literally knows nothing about anything, like not only nothing about like a fantasy world, right? But nothing about my world in particular as well is awesome. And that's also awesome, I think. It's made some great roleplay moments for my players because they have simply been able to explain to him in character these things, right? Like, it's been wonderful things.
When I have a genuine question about something, my brain goes, just talk like you're Corin.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, you don't have to ask the DM, like, would I know this? Yes, your character would know this. This is what it is. And then it's like, I know this.
I would not know this.
And I try to inform my players about my world and what they would know pre-thing. Like, everything that we possibly could have known from their backstories, especially with Connor and Tristan, who are rooted in this world. I made sure to tell them as much as they could, or much as I could about my world and what they would know as their characters. And of course, they have information from other campaigns and whatnot. They have participated in events that very much...
I want to go to Magistul.
I bet you do, buddy. I bet you do.
Can we go to Magistul?
I wonder why you want to go to Magistul.
Yeah. Are they still
Your
assholes?
character, actually... No.
I haven't been there.
I'm not going to spoil anything.
Wait. No, yeah, wait.
I'm not going to spoil anything. I
forgot about that.
Yeah, let's be quiet here.
Hey.
So, yeah.
You can't know.
Yeah, you don't know anything. You don't know anything.
Nice opinion. Small issue. I'm inside your home.
I'm inside your home. Alright. Enough being creepy. Time to be normal. Damn it. Gotta be normal now.
This one's for my cringe comp. That's my girlfriend's like me.
You can tell we are getting way off topic.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Final question. There was the last one.
So, I kind of want to talk about a little bit of the one shot real quick before we get how did the environment affect the morals and what they want. If my players have not picked up on this already, the king is the main bad guy of the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And
most of them are.
They're all bad
It's
guys.
crazy what absolute power does to a motherfucker.
Little do they know. I can't say that. I really wish I could say these things, but there's reason why he has one arm, and there's a reason he doesn't have part of his face, and it all deeps into the final boss they're gonna face, and which kind of goes into the environment of why he's like this. Is a simple way to put it without spoiling anything. They're trying to fit in before the revolution begins.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's interesting then, because like knowing that, especially with my character Damon, you maybe wouldn't like go kill all of them.
Yeah, which is going to be very interesting to see. But like, how does the environment itself affect what the characters you build? Like, in a way, when you made the environment, why did you create those characters to fit in them? You know?
Well, it's kind of like I said before with if there is a floating city, who would be in floating? Okay, well, why is the city floating? Well, it's very magical. All right, do they know what kind of magic? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, well, the people that would, if they know what kind of magic, it's going to be students who want to study that kind of magic. All right, if it's no, it's going to be the most powerful wizards who want to know what kind of magic that is. All right, well, why are they that powerful? All right, well, because of this reason. And then it kind of trickles down to like, all right, and his third dog's name was...
Yeah. And I find that really funny is I noticed even first time DMing's just a circle. It's like that meme where you see this guy who's super tired and it's just a circle of like different quotes. That's what DMing feels like, except it's fun most of the time.
It's a cycle, but like a freaky cycle.
Yeah, except you're like, I'm gonna add another step in this cycle, and then I'm gonna add another step in this cycle. That's what I notice a lot with like DMing. It's like I'm adding steps in this cycle. Improv's a bitch.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, improv, I mean, I think we can all speak as DMs at this point that improv has been a absolute invaluable tool to us. Because that's, I mean, not only for just role-playing, like role-play improv, like acting improv, but improvising actual parts of the world, improvising information, names, all that kind of stuff.
Any DM out there,
like,
no amount of world building will prepare you for whatever dumb question your player is going to ask,
or dumb thing they do, or very smart thing they do, and they catch you.
Yeah.
Connor. You know,
I'm kidding.
Everybody thinks they're the shit until a player character asks what the title of the book is.
Yeah.
And then you're like, they're like, all right, who's the author? And you're like, well, fuck you. And then next thing you know, you're making that author's back catalog at 2 a.m.
Yep.
Instead of doing that paper.
That's what happened when Tristan bought 3 books last session, or the first session. It was like, what do those books do? What is the information of those books? I was like, you know, buddy, that's awesome. I'm going to get all of that for you
next week.
Next session.
Cool. What's it about? Shut up.
And then he became the Evergreen Tide, so I didn't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
But even looking at last session,
Mind Goblin.
Even looking at last session, though, like having your players come across things and improvisation in that regard is something that is beautiful, because I simply came up to you as the captain, the guard captain, and went, I need your adventuring cards. That was like 45 minutes of scrambling from you three. Like, it started in this whole thing, and I thought it was going to be very simple, like, we don't have it, or it's like, look over there. Ping. Like, I thought you were going to do something really simple. But it turned into this whole thing, and it was beautiful, and I loved it. It was great.
I don't know what you're talking about. I was very calm. I'm not kidding. As soon as he went, where are your adventuring cards? the first thought that popped into my brain, I went, all right, we need to go to a house and lose them. I was like, okay, this place just got raided. Let's go find somewhere that's on fire and say we lived here. Our shit was inside. We saw
Neuron activation.
monkey sees action. You mean I get to lie?
You mean I get to use my charisma? Huh?
Well, like a fun thing for me is Leland. We're just talking about. Fun thing for me is Leland is always like, all right, this is really dumb. I'm gonna keep going with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's a character who calls himself the fucking lavish legend. That guy's a little arrogant. Just a wee bit.
Yep. Yeah, and as much
That's
as
what I
I
love
love,
about Corrin.
yeah,
It's like I get to roleplay as Corrin's a very chill character outside of out of combat or out of his target. He's very like he's just a regular guy. Like that's who he is. And then when you put him in combat, he's a bloodthirsty paladin.
We didn't do this, so we'll do it next year. And you chat, the people who were here can be like, I was there, and I expect you to comment that on Instagram. We were gonna do Valentine for characters. We forgot to do it. The one we came up with for Corrin was just, I won't kill you.
Yeah. It was either if you were Justice, I'd follow you, and then I as I was about to fall asleep on Discord, Connor goes, "What if you did? I won't kill you." And I was like, "That's really good."
yeah,
That's great.
Yeah.
it is sick fucking nap, dude.
Well, if nobody has anything else left to say, we can turn it over to the chat. Do you guys have any questions for us? I can check Instagram right now to make.
Yep, and I'll be responding here directly on YouTube. So if you want to put in the chat on YouTube,
I'm not going to respond to either because I don't want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you guys want to know anything about, us as players or as DMs or D&D, anything.
But you have to roll a
us.
nat 20 to be able to ask us a question.
IRL.
IRL. Yep. You have to roll dice. Yep.
Did you get any
Not-
questions?
No questions on Instagram, so it's up to you, YouTube.
Yep. Come on.
You can keep
Step it up.
You can step it up.
Yeah,
Step
you can
it
keep your
up.
stream going forever. If you just keep asking us questions, it'll go on
Keep
Yeah,
forever.
asking
we
questions.
can't stop. You know we're motor mouths, so
It's true.
no, I just like I was saying before, like gaming as a storytelling device is just beautiful.
It's amazing. I
so
like
good.
gaming as storytelling is really, I think, what's gotten me into film other than YouTube itself. Because YouTube is such a great platform to get into film because you have so many different places and platforms that people use, like role playing or telling a whole story. There's just so much that you can get into. It just inspires like a lot of people to do things, and it's
Yeah.
wild.
Dungeons and Dragons has been extraordinarily helpful in writing.
Yeah.
In creative writing, yeah.
Yeah, because it's been
I
like
rolled a
okay,
nat 20.
because all like most of the time with storytellers, you see the control freaks, and it's always about like my characters do this, and then they do this, and then they do this, and the setting is this. But it's like, all right, all I'm going to do all D&D is just write interior bedroom, and then your players write the scene, and it helps you see like, okay, well, how would these?
Yeah, it's
How would these people do this thing?
yeah. How would they react to this?
Yeah, because
Yeah, I completely agree with you because I'm not a big writer in film. But even that one session itself kind of like made my neurons activate to be like, oh, so this is what these characters would do in this situation.
Yeah. And that's not even the most interesting. Like, I do love the like kind of almost science experiment style of DMing, where it's like, these characters, we have these things, we have these parameters, we have these classes, right? It's very interesting to see What happens if I do this? And then you do the thing, and then it's like, whoa, that's crazy. That's cool. That's cool to see, right?
My hypothesis was correct.
My hypothesis was correct. But to me, the most interesting, not even the most interesting, but the best and the most, just the best part, honestly, the only way I can describe it is the best part of D&D to me is that story that envelops from character decisions, from the moment of, oh my god, that's my brother. Why is he there? The moment of, why have I been fighting on this side all this time? The moment,
or the moment of I just took a shit. Oh my god, look, my daughter.
Vox Machina moment.
Spoiler warning, spoiler warning, spoiler warning.
Hey, you don't know who.
The campaign is multiple years old. I knew this shit since 2017.
Come on! Catch up with me! Come on!
Hey, Stanley Schwartz.
But no, it's those moments of, wow, that happened. It's the moment of, this is the turning point. It's those moments in storytelling for D&D specifically that really intrigues me.
Yeah.
Where it's like, because D&D is so fun. It has so many facets of things that I enjoy with it. But my favorite parts is that the moment in session 2, honestly. Like when Tristan went, when Glass goes, you now answer to the Evergreen Tide. It's like, what? What is happening? What does that mean? What's going on? Like,
legendary action.
Yeah, those kind of things too. I love that. I love surprising my players with that kind of stuff. Because it's just fun. It's enjoyable. It makes for interesting mindsets too. It puts you in a certain mindset, right? One of my favorite things is, for example, Dark Souls. Dark Souls is one of my favorite series ever. And if you don't know, it's a third-person action game that is known for its difficulty, set in a fantasy world.
True.
And one of my favorite things about Dark Souls is the team over at FromSoft works so hard to always glorify game mechanics. Right? Think about it. The bonfire. We know it as players as a place to rest, heal up, get our potions back to heal, right? Our Estus, to teleport, all that stuff, right? But think about what the characters know it as. They know it as a solace. They know it as a beacon of hope. They know it as a place of refuse. They know it as a artifact of power. They know it as all of these things in game as well, that very, very well line up to what we as players know it as. So it very interestingly does the same thing in D&D when I go legendary action. You as players see it as, oh, legendary action, he's acting out of turn, he's doing all this crap to me, right? But you as characters, your characters see that as great speed, power, strength, reactivity, combat prowess. It's the same thing for both of you, though. Different context, but it's the same thing. It gets you, as a player, into the mindset of your character so much easily when a game mechanic works perfectly with the story. And that is one of my favorite things about games, is that power to make you feel something, make you understand something by translating it. And it's amazing, and it's almost unintentional, because games were just designed to be like, oh, Mario, wahoo! You know, it started very simple. You know, it was pong, right? You know, but nowadays it turned into something more beautiful, and that's what I love the most about D&D.
Well, no, Ricky, Noah, any final words?
I feel like I just listened to a professor of D&D talk.
Yeah.
And my brain just almost flatlined. Not being mean, not being mean. Like, I was just like, oh, yes, monkey.
Correct.
Indeed.
Indubitably.
Oh,
Right.
yes, good
Right.
sir. Oh, yes. Oh, I have the classical music going on my vinyl record player, and I have it on the gramophone. And, quite well, indeed, yes.
Well, on that note, if we don't have any questions, well, folks, we ran out of time. Be sure to let us know your opinions in the comments. Any questions if you think of anything out of stream, put it over on the Instagram. I'll make sure I answer them over there. Speaking of Instagram, make sure you follow us.
Instagram, TikTok.
Yeah, follow us
YouTube.
on Instagram or TikTok.
We make funny
we are-
content, okay? Shadow Wizard Money Gang.
We love casting spells, and we love casting spells so much. We're going to be casting a really big ritual next week. That's going to recuperate all of us. So we're not going to be here.
Yeah.
So, we are not going to be here next week. So make sure you check us out on TikTok and Instagram, as well as our reels here on YouTube. We've been getting a lot of support from you guys, and we really appreciate it. And we'd love to keep that momentum going. So make sure you share us with your friends, like, subscribe if you like us. Share it with your friends that are getting into D&D, or if you're trying to get a friend into D&D. We would
Or
just.
if you're trying to get into D&D.
Or if you are trying to get into
your
D&D.
mom's trying to get into D&D.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
I love you.
I love you too, Mom. I
love you, Mother.
That's all I got on my end. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you, Ricky and Noah, for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for the really great discussion on world building, you guys. We will see you guys in 2 weeks. Continue Catalyst.
Indeed. Yes, we will. And as always, everyone, welcome to Plaricia. Yeah!